If you have any questions you'd like to see in a video, you can submit those in the comments below here. I want to get started right in on this and point out that we're getting into the warm sunny days here. I don't know if you can see it around me, but there's not a cloud in the sky. Here in Middle Tennessee, we're right at 80 degrees today. Earlier this week, we went ahead and we put our shade cloth back on our Glacier Series house here. Now, we did start with this house because this is the house that one of our guys here on staff has been doing some seed starting in here. We didn't want to wilt anything that he's got started. All of our other houses have some mature root vegetables in there, so we're letting them get full heat right now. But we started with the shade cloth. So I thought, with it being this time of year, everybody's getting ready for their heat. We'll just go over this one. In particular, this shade cloth is a 50% coverage, so it's gonna give you a reduction, but it's not gonna completely black out your greenhouse. When we're installing these shade cloths, of course, we take them off annually. We can take them off every fall and winter when we need to get that heat back in there. We're gonna put them back on the spring and summer. We do have a few different options. Of course, when you order your shade cloth, you have options on how you want the edges done. We can do sewn edges. Hopefully you can see them on here. We've got grommets on these sewn edges. So in this particular order here, we have a few different options. We can take these clamps, which snap together, and they've got these little fingers in there. I'll step up maybe so you can see them. These little fingers interlock with those holes, and you really just press it together. And I'm not gonna press it all the way because we don't wanna ruin this piece here, but once you do that, as you can kind of see, we end up with a nice loop. With this, and the next one I'm about to show you, the S-hooks. These S-hooks are kind of like a small carabiner. They're gonna be sprung plastic there so that you can slide them into our grommets. So we can just take it, we'll pop it right in. Now with both of these styles of securing your shade cloth, it is gonna require an extra tie down, which may require an extra anchor in the ground. Or you could tie, put an anchor on your baseboard maybe even and use that to secure it. My biggest problem with that is it's gonna interfere with my roll-up side on this particular house with the slope here. If we tied directly to the baseboard or even to an anchor, I'll create a trip spot out here beside the greenhouse. So my preferred method of installing these shade cloths is gonna be our wiggle wire. And if you do choose that method, you may have to order a few extra pieces of wiggle wire. Depending on the size of your house, I would say just a bundle of 20 would get you carried away all day. So I can go ahead and when I'm ready to take this off in the fall, I just pull the wire right out of the channel. The great thing about the wire lock channel that we do send with your greenhouse kit is not only is my end wall film wired into this channel, I have a second layer of wire holding in my main film into this channel. With the depth of the channel that we use, I'm now putting in a third layer of wire to secure my shade cloth. Now, the great thing about that is I'm using standard stuff that comes with my greenhouse kit. You do often end up with a few pieces of wire extra. I wouldn't bank on that though. I would go ahead and buy a few more pieces, 10, 20 pieces. This particular Glacier Series is right at about 32 feet long. And if we look down the side here, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see it or not. Maybe I can get a close up for you here. We actually don't even have the wire for this shade cloth overlapping or touching each other like we would worry about with the main film or the end film. Since everything else is so secure already, we do already have the wire overlapping on the main and the end film as well. The shade cloth, especially this 50%, is not gonna catch wind like our main film will. It's not as big a risk for tearing out and blowing away. So actually between the wire here, I've got about a 2-foot gap before the next piece of wire starts. And that's gonna allow me to use just a little bit less. It's gonna be taking it down in the fall is gonna be a little bit quicker. I'm not gonna have to untie new anchors or anything like that. However, if you have a double poly on your greenhouse, the main film is doubled up. You've got the inflation blower to create that dead airspace bubble. It's gonna help you, of course, retain heat in the wintertime. It's gonna create an insulatory layer on that greenhouse. If that is the case, you've already taken up pretty much the majority of the room that we're gonna be able to put any wire in here. Since you will, on this first and last hoop, have to wire in your end film, your main film, and then you'll have a third run of wire for your secondary main film. And that's where things like the snap clamps here and the S-hooks really come in handy, is if you're in a situation where you still want it covered, but you don't have any room left in your channel there to go ahead and stack more wire. Hopefully that covered You know, most of our questions about the shade cloth there. Of course, if you do have any further questions, even if it's what percentage is correct for my house, you can reach right out to our sales staff, very knowledgeable. They will be able to calculate the purchase, the shipping and everything. Actually, I believe this is a free shipping item. So absolutely, if you're looking for a shade cloth, give us a call. They're gonna be able to figure out what's gonna work best for you. Maybe it's a certain tint for what you're growing on the inside. Maybe black's not what you need. You want something like the Aluminet that's gonna be more reflective, or maybe 50% isn't quite enough for what you're looking for. You need more light reduction, more heat reduction. Reach out to us here and they'll be able to help you with that. I'm gonna cheat a little bit on this, following the steps of Roger, as I was told. Tim made me a cheat sheet here for these questions. I do feel like this one here at the top is pretty good though. We have something came up. I cannot accept the delivery or come and pick up my greenhouse right away. Can you hold it? We do have, especially for customer pickups here on site, we have more leniency with this protocol. However, working with these freight companies, they have rules that we cannot get around. So there is the possibility that if you cannot accept the shipment after, you know, confirmation phone calls, and we try to avoid this every way we can. I want to be very clear. We have a freight specialist down here in the warehouse. He calls and makes sure you're ready for us to ship your greenhouse. As long as it doesn't leave our property, we can have more leniency as far as any charges accrued. We have a little bit of space. We can store it. We just can't be a storage company. However, once we are dealing with these freight companies, your greenhouse, all your bundles of steel, your pallet of hardware and film, and any hard goods you may order from our warehouse, if that's all made it on the truck, it's all en route to your location. When they call, they're gonna call and set up a time for delivery. It's very important that they do this for your benefit. As long as within a meaningful window, you can set up a time that you can be ready to be at your property to receive this greenhouse, unloading the bundles and the pallet there. There should be no issues. However, we have had it occur in the past where customers have set up the appointment, didn't get it in their calendar, forgot for whatever reason, something came up, family emergency. There is the possibility that the freight company would want to put additional charges on that. And it would be an understanding between us here at Grower Solution and you as the customer as to how we can get those charges best handled. The next one on here, are the frames or kits hard to install? The written answer is no. I'm gonna be a little more frank with you and tell you that they can be challenging. Does that mean they're technically difficult? I'm gonna say no, absolutely not. The instructions are written in a way, hopefully, where they're easy to follow. We also have a few videos online. While we don't have every kit we'd like to videoed and put online at the moment, all of our installation processes are similar enough that even if it's a low side house, if you catch that high side installation video, specifically it's a 20-foot wide series. The only difference for a 20-foot wide series and a 24-foot wide series is one extra bow piece in the middle of that span. But as far as how to align your ground stakes, squaring your greenhouse, attaching your ground stakes to the bow material, or the ground stakes to the bow material, suspending your purlin, all of our processes are similar enough that through any of our videos, you should be able to get a good understanding of the process you'd like to follow to install your greenhouse. So we'll go with written instructions, video guides, and we're here, again, 5 days a week to answer your questions and to try to help you walk through any snags or snafus that may occur during your installation process. Very next question, how are the ground stakes attached to the bow material? Again, in the instructions, the video guides, and give me a call if this doesn't answer it as well. It's very simple. The ground stakes are gonna be driven directly into the soil. Most of our ground stakes go at 24 inches. There is some variation there. 24 is the depth that is kind of in the middle. We say 24 inches is preferable. Anywhere really 18 to 28 inches, as long as you're gonna have the amount of ground stake above the ground to get your desired height, especially for, say, our low side greenhouse or one of our high side greenhouses. You'll wanna be more specific in hitting that 18 to 24 inch mark. As far as attaching those to the bow material, all of our ground stakes are sized up from the bow material itself. So what you'll do is actually on every one of our kits, whether it's got a sweeping bow with a sharp dog leg on the ends, or if it is the Quonset style that is a semicircle going directly into 6-inch tall ground stakes, all of the bow material is a size down from the ground stake material. So what you'll do is you'll slide your tubing inside, and we'll use 2 Tech screws we want to be at least 6 inches inserted into the ground stake. So you take those Tech screws, go about an inch up from where it connects, go an inch down from the top of the ground stake. You put one in there, go about 4 inches down and put one in there, and that should leave you good leverage to secure your bows into the ground stake material with those 2 Tech screws. Additionally, if you have roll-up sides on a Quonset, or if you've ordered one of the low or high sidewall series or the Dakota series here beside me, all of those are suggested to hang hip or headache boards depending on the height of the sidewall. And all of those boards are going to be hung right where the bow makes its connection into the ground stake. So it's going to be a 3rd Tech screw into the 2-hole strap, aiding in securing that bow material once you're to that step in your process. Hopefully these last few help. These are more focused on the installation side of the process. One of the first things I'm going to hit here is, how do I square the corner stakes? So in the installation process, the most important step is going to be squaring our greenhouse so that everything can be in line. We can be on the same 4-foot centers as we are on the right side as we are on the left. Through this, if you are on our website and you go to the frequently asked questions section, you will see this question: how do I square the corner ground stakes? There's a link there to a squaring calculator, which will give you the diagonal measurements. If you are related to or remember anything from high school, if you've got an algebra teacher in your family, Pythagorean's theorem, a squared plus b squared will equal c squared, and that c squared is going to be our diagonal measurement, so we'll need to find the square root of that number. If we don't remember that algorithm, or we don't want to mess with square roots and squaring, there are many foundation calculators online. You can Google foundation squaring calculator, and that will give you an easy to use calculator. The first 2 or 3 links, I believe, are very easy to use calculators where you put in your length, your width, and it'll give you the diagonal measurement. So the first thing you want to do is set your first 2 ground stakes at the width of your greenhouse kit, whether it's 16 foot, 8 foot, 32 feet, whatever kit you've purchased. You want to set your first 2. If you're squaring off above building, that can make it easier to get your length set up the right way on those first 2. To find that 3rd corner, we're going to take 1 measuring tape down the length. If it's a 32 foot by 32 foot, then we'll just pull that 32 feet, put the 2 ground stakes in, go 32 feet to the back wall, and we'll take that diagonal measurement, whatever that may be. I can't remember completely off the top of my head. I believe on that 32 by 32 is somewhere around 43 feet. So you would take a 43 foot diagonal measurement from the, we'll just say right side, back to the left side, and that's going to give you where that 3rd ground stake will meet, those 2 tapes intersecting at your 32 feet and your diagonal measurement. I only have 1 run of purlin. What do I do? So for the majority of our greenhouses, that purlin acts simply as a spine to help stabilize the bows and tie them in together. On every greenhouse that is 20 foot wide and below, all the way down to our 8-foot Dakotas, you're only going to receive 1 run of purlin. Now, again, that's going to stabilize your bows down through there. So as we get into our 24 foot, whether that's a Quonset, high or low sidewall house, we get into that 24 feet, we've actually gone up to 3 runs of purlin. We want to run 1 right down the middle at 12 o'clock, and we want to come out to roughly what's going to be 10 and 2 and run those other 2 runs. Because the house is that much wider, it is going to help stabilize the bow more across that width. And that goes all the way up into, I believe, even on our Glacier series here, as you can see, maybe can see on this house, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs of purlin. Now with the Gothic style of this Glacier house, the gabled peak that it has, the center height of this house, we went with 5 to really encourage stability between these bows and to lock the whole greenhouse in together. If you come up short, it says right here, I do not have enough purlin clamps. What do I do? So if you're on a single run of purlin, this is the easiest way to explain it. On a single run of purlin, you will have 2 less purlin clamps than you have total bows. And the reason for that is the way these clamps secure over the bow material and then hoop the purlin in there, we tighten the bolts. If we were to try to do this on the end walls, we would have a saddle hanging over the end wall, which would create a rub spot and tear holes all in our end wall film at the very top there. That's not going to be good for our end walls and for the longevity of our greenhouse. So in doing that, we have 1 inch, 2-hole straps. And those are what you're gonna use to secure your purlin to the first and last bow. So if you come to this question in your own installation, I don't have enough purlin clamps, what we really wanna make sure is that we have enough for every bow except for the outside 2. And if that's for 1 run of purlin, 3 or 5 runs, you're always gonna end up with 2 less per purlin than you're gonna have bows. I wanna talk about, how do I install the main film? How do I attach the main film? Again, we have the wire lock channel here on all of our greenhouse kits, and we have what we call wiggle wire that has all these nice little humps back and forth all the way through it, so that as you put it into the channel, it creates pressure pressing out and locks you in. For your main film, end wall film, that's all going to be done in that lock, in that channel. And again, we run our end wall film first so that we have an overhang to the inside, and then we'll do our main film second. So you will end up, even if you don't have shade cloth or double poly, you will end up with at least 2 runs of wire in that channel, and it'll be perfectly secure. One thing about this wire lock, occasionally, especially if you're using the same piece over and over again for thunderstorms and things like that, this wire is mild still. It is sprung a little bit from where we run it through our machine here to manufacture it. So one thing that will happen over time, almost guaranteed, and you can almost see it in this one here. If you'll notice how steep it is here, but when we come to this last piece that's been locking into our greenhouse so much that we've used it for these thunderstorms and everything, one thing that will help you to keep its rigidity and keep it in that channel, if this does happen to spread on you, number one, you can always order more wire. However, if that's not an option, or if you can't wait for the shipping and get things to you, you're in a hurry, the wire won't stay in, whatever it may be. So we'll just take that last complete hump here, and I'm gonna put just a little sharper bend in it. And you can see there where we've created that, and you can even go as far as to loop that. It does take a little bit of pressure, but if you go ahead and bend this back around, and I'll try to put my hand here so you can see it, if you double it back on itself even, then when you get to this point and you wire it in, you'll almost be squeezing that into the channel and creating outward spring pressure that doubles down to hold that end in. And again, that's gonna be useful for if you're using the same piece for your thunderstorms or winter care, whatever it may be. It will eventually wear out over time, as any sprung metal will. But if you're not looking to replace it immediately, you can put that little bend in the end, create an extra crimp here, or a little extra bend here, and really get that to press into that channel. And that's gonna help you secure that. We do have questions all the time about installing these doors. The biggest question that people will ask is they'll get through their entire installation and they'll start and they'll put their wire base over the hoop, they'll run the wire base down the sides, they'll put it between the hip and the footboard, they'll run it on the baseboard where you're supposed to here on the end wall. However, on our end wall kits, we only design there to be wire base on the footboard and on the hoop itself. If you purchase a roll-up door kit that will have the header for your roll-up door, that will come with extra base and wire to frame that door in. If your intentions are to pick up a storm door, again at your local hardware store, what we've done here is if we tried to put the wire channel here, either that would be in the way of the door installation or the door would be in the way of the wire installation. So what we've opted to do here is take the flat panel, which is standard across most of our storm doors that are on the market. You take that flat panel, and once you have installed your end wall film, you want to install your end wall film first, you'll then make that X or even just a Y cut right there. You can move your door into place up against your header. Yourself or someone on the inside will pull that to get the tension on the end wall, and then you'll go ahead and put screws in every hole that is designed on that plate. Now, I would also suggest maybe going between the two that are pre-drilled from the manufacturer, and our tech screws will cut right through that aluminum. Put you an extra screw or two in there. We've done it on this one. Down here, we've done a few extra near the hinges. These we felt secure around the hinges. On the other side, we've got 1 or 2 extra there as well. Mr. Wasp, thank you. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end here. Please like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for the next series that comes out here. Thank y'all again.